Cortisol, stress, blah, blah, blah. And she's in her 50s and she looks absolutely incredible. I mean, check out this girl's physique. She's posed in a bikini. She looks like she has the physique of a 25-year-old bikini competitor.
Whoa! Greg Doucette, you either love him or you hate him, don't you? Hello fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal, and this channel is all about helping you if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50, get in fantastic shape. And you know, when Greg Doucette is making a video about you, it's not all gonna be wonderful, is it? I think it's really great that people like Greg actually call out some of the influencers that I see on YouTube and on other platforms. I see some absolutely great influencers, but I actually see lots that give misinformation at best, and at worst are actually being dishonest. And I like to be really honest with you guys. I completely open and honest about my lifestyle, my HRT journey. But what I wanted to do was set the record straight with Greg Doucette's video, because I know for some of you it would have sown the seed of doubt in your mind about whether my method of fat loss for women over 40 actually works. And it really does work, because the thing about it is Greg's a great guy, but he knows nothing about going through menopause. He hasn't had personal experience of this. He doesn't work with the thousands of women that I work with. I've had 4,000 women through my programs actually experience fat loss, and they experience this method of weight loss, and it actually does work for them.
Cortisol, stress, blah, blah, blah.
So the first thing to say is that kind of comment around stress and sleep and hormones is pretty patronising, isn't it? And the fact of the matter is, as a 45-year-old man, he hasn't had to go through menopause and all the trauma that brings, and having that real struggle, isn't it, to lose body fat. It's a real struggle. It tends to sit around your midsection and it's really hard to get rid of. He simply hasn't had that experience, and actually things like stress and sleep play a massive role in that. And you know, as well as the 4,000 women that have been through my programs, I work with women as a one-to-one coach. Here are just a few examples. I'm going to show pictures here of women that have actually worked with me and experienced this fat loss using the methods that I talk about all over my videos. And in this particular video, it's really great that he's dissecting this, because it's putting female fat loss over 40 at the forefront. It's obviously really important, isn't it, if Greg's making a video about it. Now, the first thing he talks about is losing belly fat, and Greg says that it's the same for anyone at any age, and it's about genetics. I actually still carried a lot of body fat around my midsection, and that happens a lot over the age of 40.
And so when she says she lost weight but she still had a belly, was carrying fat in her midsection, that can happen at any age. That just depends on where you store and or lose body fat the easiest. And so whether you're 20, 50, or even 100 years of age, if you have stubborn belly fat you're not losing, that's just due to your genetics. All you need to do is to continue to diet.
Well, that's actually not right, because as a menopausal woman, so it might be leading up to perimenopause and menopause, your body is going to be losing an estrogen, and the way that your body tries to produce estrogen is producing more fat, and that's typically around your midsection. When you're over 40, there's actually a medical reason that you're storing more fat around your midsection, and it's really hard to get rid of. So it's just not the same for everyone of every gender and every age. It's actually a specific problem for women leading up to and around menopause. And I wasn't losing body fat doing a ton of running.
That is not a reason you're not losing too much weight. The more cardio you do, you will literally lose more body fat and more weight. Not saying you need to go out and do 5 hours of cardio a day, but if you did, you're clearly going to get leaner than if you didn't do any.
At the time, I thought it was really important and more important to get in cardio than it was strength training.
You are going to burn off more calories, become a better butter burner, and it will be easier to sustain weight loss if you're someone who enjoys and does a lot of cardio.
Women over 40 can actually be doing too much cardio, especially if you're not incorporating any strength training whatsoever, or it's to the detriment. So that's what I was doing. It was to the detriment of strength training. And what can happen if you're doing too much cardio is it's actually really hard to build muscle at the same time. Greg doesn't seem to have a problem doing that. He's doing a ton of cardio and still building muscle. But in my experience, not only with my own body, but the women that I work with that approach me and they're doing too much cardio and we take the cardio out, is actually they end up getting better results by doing more strength training and shorter amounts of high intensity interval training.
In comparison, lifting weights does in fact burn calories. Yes, not as much as cardio.
Greg is right in saying that cardio, while you're doing cardio, does actually burn more calories. With my method of HIIT cardio, it's actually going to burn even more calories. And what Greg talks about is the fact that cardio burns more calories during the time that you're doing cardio. And yeah, that is absolutely true, but the reason that you want to do strength training is because building muscle is actually going to help you burn more calories while you're not working out. So it's going to improve your metabolism or your basal metabolic rate, which is how effective your body is at burning calories. And if you incorporate strength training, and that's what's happened to me and the women that I work with, what they find is they burn calories more easily. No one's going to argue with that. Greg's not going to argue with it because he agreed you do need to incorporate strength training.
And for every 10 pounds of muscle you add, it's going to increase your BMR by 80 calories. And on top of that, you're going to burn additional calories throughout the day because you're stronger, you can move your body around quicker, lift heavier weights in the gym, and so on. And so ultimately, you might burn off an additional 200 calories if you, in fact, add 10 pounds of muscle. But that's 200 calories in a day through adding 10 pounds of muscle, which is, in fact, quite a bit for a woman in her 50s. And does that mean you shouldn't lift weights? Of course not. You should lift weights and do cardio. But if you're only doing cardio and not lifting weight, it's not going to prevent you from burning fat.
Yes, cardio has its place, but just not too much of it. I was actually doing high repetitions, and what you actually need to do is go as heavy as you possibly can.
All right, so to break this down, she's saying she had no gains in the gym because her trainer sucked and told her to do high reps. And I was thinking high reps, and she said 60. She said 16 to 20. So she had no muscle because she was training with too high of a rep range, 16 to 20. Guess how many reps I do in a ton of the sets I'm doing? 15 to 20. And so she started training like Coach Greg and couldn't build any muscle because apparently that's all wrong. You can't build muscle training at 16 to 20 reps. Listen, it's not about how many reps you're doing. It's about the intensity of the reps you're performing. How hard are you pushing yourself in the gym? Are you training close to failure? Or are you leaving 10 reps in the tank like Jeff Nippard? And so regardless if you did 5, 10, 15, 20 reps, heavy weights, lighter weights, if you push yourself to failure, you train harder than last time, you are going to experience hypertrophy.
Let's talk about this. High reps and light weights. This is a technique that I was given to by an old trainer years ago, and it's often given to women. Greg disagrees that he says it works, but what he's talking about actually is what he calls moderate weights and something like 16 reps. Well, that works very well for him, but as you can see in this video, I would describe this as lifting quite heavy. Even for a man, that's actually quite heavy. A lot of the women that I talk to they've only got kind of really light dumbbells, £5 dumbbells at home. And that's really not going to be doing a lot once you've started getting used to training and you're above beginner level training. You really need to be going heavier, really challenging your body. And what Greg talks about is training to failure. So I would say yes to failure or almost to failure. He's not a million miles from what I'm saying. How heavy you should be lifting is relative to the person and everyone's different. But what we do agree with is you should be progressing. So some of the techniques you need to incorporate that Greg was talking about are either increasing the weight, and yes, increasing the reps, slowing the movement down, that's a really good technique, or even putting a pause in. And that's what's going to give you progressive overload and hypertrophy. And lifting heavy is just one of the ways that you can do that. So my video was an oversimplification, but what I'm trying to do is actually get the message across to women not to fear lifting weights and going heavy, because that's a really, really important tool in your armory to improving your metabolism. You're just putting back on the muscle that you've lost through the aging process.
Listen, you haven't lost a ton of muscle throughout the aging process because you're now at the age of 40. In fact, a lot of Mr. Olympia competitors are champions at the age of 40 or more. You don't suddenly start losing a lot of muscle when you're 30. At 40 or so, perhaps 1% a year, and that's mostly because people are lazy and not working out. And so rather than thinking you're going to lose a lot of muscle by the age of 40, think, I'm going to build a lot of muscle and keep it because I'm not going to be a slacker and not go and train and make excuses and have a dad bod.
That's absolutely right. You suddenly don't lose muscle when you hit 40, but what you do find, and this actually starts at the age of 35, is you're losing around 1% of your muscle mass per year. So over 10 years, you could have lost 10% of your muscle mass, and that's quite significant, and you do need to work on building it up. And these guys that he was talking about that are ripped and have got lots of muscle at 40, that's because they're stage competitors. They're not a normal 40-year-old woman and who hasn't been doing any strength training. So if you haven't been doing any strength training, yes, you're going to lose that muscle mass at a rate of 1% per year. So it's really important that you do the strength training to put that muscle back on and therefore build your metabolism. I was improving my nutrition, so I was getting more protein in, but the problem is my calories were too low.
Okay, and so the next mistake she says is she was only eating 1,300 calories a day, and that was too low to have the energy to train hard. This is actually good information. If you diet too strictly, you're in too great of a calorie deficit, you're not going to have the energy to put forth while you're lifting weights. Think of it, you're on a very low calorie diet. You're in a severe calorie deficit. You go to the gym, you don't have the energy to train hard. You go and do your cardio, and your cardio, it's lackluster. You were supposed to go for a 10K jog, and you end up walking 3 kilometers and going home because you just have no energy. And so what she did is she ate more.
Because I was on those really low calories, what I used to do is whole day cheat days. And of course, that's undone everything that you've done during the week.
And so what happened as a result of this low calorie diet is she ended up on binges. She'd go on the weekend, eat full day cheats. And so she ended up not losing any weight because that severe calorie deficit she had wasn't sustainable. And so she binge ate way too many calories and undid all the weight loss that she did during the week on the weekend when she overindulged, overate in calories. And so rather than eating 1,300 calories a day and eating 5,000 calories on the weekend, you spread it out and have a more even diet. For example, eat 1,700 calories a day, but do so 7 days a week.
Just a little point here, Greg did agree with me that you can take your calories too low, and it's counterproductive because what happens is you tend to eat really, really well, and then you're going to go off and have a binge because you simply don't have enough calories in your system to keep going consistently over a long period of time. So I'm really glad that he pointed that out, and I really agree with what he's saying about having enough calories in your system to be able to do things like strength training is really important. And if you're not fueling your body correctly, you're not going to be able to do your strength training. You're not going to be able to do your HIIT cardio. So we're both agreed on that. Also including an hour per week of high intensity interval training.
Okay, also bad advice. Do not think that you need to go out and do 60 minutes a week of HIIT cardio. That is a lot. That is a lot for a high performance athlete. HIIT cardio, high intensity training, that is intense training where you really push yourself. It's like you're running with a bear chasing you. You're trying not to die. It is hard.
Craig says an hour a week of HIIT cardio is too much. But what I'm talking about is breaking that down into 3 20-minute sessions or maybe 4 15-minute sessions. And that's really not a lot, is it? So it's nothing to worry about. I would still highly recommend it over steady state cardio.
I mean, how do we know she's natural? Perhaps she threw in some SARMs. Maybe she's on HRT. We don't know any of that. That 100% could account for all this. Maybe she just went on HRT. I don't know if she did. I don't think she did. Perhaps she did. She looks like she could be. You don't think women go on HRT? You don't think women can use supplements? All she'd have to use is one performance-enhancing drug, and she could have made all these changes and kept her diet the same. You really think after 2.5 years you're not going to gain any muscle, you're not going to lose any fat, you can't lose your stomach, suddenly you make a change before and after, more protein, and bam, you turn into a bikini competitor in the age of 50.
Okay, I'm now going to be talking about performance enhancing drugs. I am a completely natural athlete. I've done all my bodybuilding shows without the use of performance enhancing drugs. I also didn't take HRT during that period. Not that there's anything wrong with taking HRT, but I'm going to tackle performance enhancing drugs. When I actually first wanted to compete in a bodybuilding show, I hired myself a coach like many women do, and I would recommend you do the same if you're thinking of competing. Hire yourself a coach. And I actually found a coach, and what she tried to do was get me to take performance enhancing drugs. And what I actually did is I completely dropped the idea of even competing at all. I got rid of the coach because what I thought from that interaction was that I'm going to be up against lots of competitors that take performance enhancing drugs and I wouldn't stand a chance. So I kind of left it for 6 months and just put to the back of my mind the idea of competing. And then I went to see a friend competing in a local show, and she was actually doing it without the use of performance enhancing drugs. And I just thought, well, maybe I can do this. And in the meantime, I hired another coach. I've actually made a video about her on my channel. When I met her, she told me straight away, Melissa, you do not need to take performance enhancing drugs. And I never have, never will. I am completely against it. And what I would say to you, if you are thinking of competing and you're worried about that, please do not worry. You can do a bodybuilding competition completely drug-free. It may take you a bit longer to get there. You know, I've been building my muscle for a number of years. I've been doing this for 6 years now. The first category that I competed in was bikini. You do not need a significant amount of muscle to compete in bikini, and you can absolutely do that without having the years and years of training to do that. So don't let that put you off like it put me off initially. I would not be able to teach women how to lose body fat if I was taking performance enhancing drugs. And it would actually be a lie, wouldn't it? If I'm trying to teach you how to lose weight and how to lose body fat and put on muscle, and I'm taking performance enhancing drugs to do that, I can't teach you because I actually don't know what it's like to do that naturally. It's really important that you understand that I absolutely don't do that, and you can achieve a body like me absolutely naturally. Yes, you will have to work hard, and you'll have to work harder than a younger woman. Yes, it's going to take time and it's going to take you longer to lose the body fat, but you can absolutely get a physique like mine absolutely naturally. And I know lots of women. This is one of my friends that's a competitor as well. This is us at a show together back in 2019, who also is an older woman. She was in her late 40s then, and she competes completely naturally. And I know lots of other older women that do this, so you absolutely can do it. Now I'm going to talk about HRT, hormone replacement therapy, because what Greg was saying in the video is that hormone replacement therapy is somehow giving you a competitive advantage, and it's like taking something like a performance enhancing drug. No, it's not. Now, as I said, I did not take hormone replacement therapy during my shows, but if I ever compete again, I will be taking hormone replacement therapy. What I currently have is progesterone and estrogen patches, and they're not about helping me build muscle. What they're about is helping me reduce my menopause symptoms, and they're actually putting hormones into the body that I've lost through going through menopause. And that's why I take it. It doesn't help me lose weight. It doesn't help me build muscle. I do take exception to Greg saying that it's somehow a performance enhancing drug. Yes, if I was taking something like testosterone, that might give me an advantage when it comes to muscle building. But I don't take testosterone. I take female hormones. It's really important that we have this debate and we actually clarify some of the misinformation about being a woman over 40 and losing fat. And it is really hard. It is really difficult. I built up this channel with trust. And what I do is give completely honest and open information. And I want to help as many of you as possible get to your body goals. What's a little bit annoying about this is it means that some people are now not going to trust the process and think you shouldn't be strength training, think you should be doing a ton of cardio and that kind of thing. And that's really not the method. And ultimately, it's about who you trust, isn't it? Do you trust a 45-year-old competitive bodybuilding man? Or do you trust a woman that's actually experiencing this for herself and also work with thousands of women who have had success using my methods?